control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make the louder noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman, that we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and thanks so much for listening in at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, and now on Revolution Radio as we welcome you to tonight's show as we're broadcasting out of Uncle Jimbo's cabin way up here in the Great White North, live on this Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at the Mighty SOR, we do this thing 3 hours a night, 7 days a week, because we want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, conspiratorial, ufological, and so much more. If you like our theme music, you can head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, click on the Bumblefoot banner. Yes, the guitar god himself, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, takes care of all of Spaced Out Radio's musical needs. You can follow us on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And, of course, you can also find us on TuneIn and download our shows now on iTunes. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. And this time we'd like to say, hi, how are you, everyone? Taking part in the Revolution Radio chat room on the High Plains Talk Radio Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. Hey, we do have the SOR Space Travelers Club up and running. We've got a number of members who've already signed up, and if you haven't yet, it's time for you to do so. It's only $5 a month, and with that, you get access to monthly group interviews, you get access to monthly prize draws, access to a special section on our website, and much more. Hey, unlike the other guys, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. At our website, you can also read the latest blogs. Mine is on the paranormal, and you can check out the Preacher's SOR Spacewire, Eric Markham, for your latest in weird and strange news. Tonight's show is brought to you by the iTunes app Spirit Story Box. The New Agora newspaper is the official newspaper of this show. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. Rivulet Reiki and readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. Remember, if you are listening on Revolution Radio, the Double R Machine is the largest nonprofit online radio station going. Take the time to visit freedomslips.com and donate today. It's the second Tuesday of the month, which means our resident ET Contactee, Samantha Mowat, joins us for the ET Experience. Samantha is someone whom I consider the best-kept secret in ufology. She's an experiencer, a seer, a stargazer, and a highly trained intuitive. Samantha has been experiencing contact ever since she was a child, and that's the big topic of tonight with Sam. How do we react as parents? Or how do we help if our child says they are seeing strange ETs? and they are having contact. I mean, think about it, parents. It's our biggest fear, isn't it? That we cannot protect our child in an unknown situation. I know as a father, I would be absolutely petrified to know that one of my children was being visited or even taken. And according to my wife, that one actually hits a little too close to home. We'll get into that later. But usually, there's a family tree to contact. And Samantha will get deeply into that as well. Samantha's website is samanthamowat.ca. We bring Samantha into Spaced Out Radio now. Good to have you back, Samantha. How are you?
I'm great, Dave, and hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well.
It's good to have you back because we are always loving having you on the show because you've actually turned into one of our top-rated shows over the last couple months here.
Yay, I'm so excited for that. That's awesome.
Well, I'm excited too because for me, ratings are good. The numbers higher, it makes Dave smile more. Numbers are lower, Dave gets sad. Very sad. No.
We've got to keep you happy.
Exactly. We got to keep the big guy in the hot seat happy. Anyways, it's always a pleasure. And, you know, we always have first-time listeners listening in, Samantha. So we'll start this off with a usual question that we start off with us. And that is, if you could explain to everyone how you came across knowing that you were an ET contactee.
So, for me, part of the ways in which I began to realize that what I was experiencing through my astral projections, my very weird experiences in life, such as missing time or just waking up in the middle of the night and seeing a being either walking into the room or walking into the house, I started to actually realize that, hey, these are extraterrestrials and multidimensionals when I was 16. And the reason why it really sunk in at that time is when I was at my mom's, rather than just not thinking too much about it the next day after I had this one encounter, I started to really think, you know, that's kind of odd. Why did I end up waking up in the night and seeing it being so bright outside? Why did I see an outline of a being coming in? Why do I feel different? And then having my mom say to me that day when I was asking her about it, she's like, oh, well, it's just ETs. It's not a big deal. Although I kind of ignored it for a while, I knew that, okay, so that means my mom's had contact because we lived on this farm literally in the middle of nowhere. Think 7 miles up a logging road on northern Vancouver Island in a small town. So, I mean, it doesn't get much more in the sticks than that. And I think our closest neighbor was over a mile away. And sorry for going on a bit of a tangent, but when I started to think about that experience and how it changed me, I started to realize that, okay, what have these beings done to me to make it so that I'm now living my life differently? I stopped partying at that age. I stopped really caring what other people thought about me and the way in which I was perceived by my peers. It really changed my conscious awareness. And then I started to realize that, okay, this wasn't a dream, or it wouldn't have had such a strong impact upon my life. That's part of how I came to realize that I was having contact with extraterrestrial multidimensional beings.
Did you expect it at first to continue on and be a lifelong adventure, if we can call it that, or did you expect it to maybe happen one or two times and did you ever wonder, geez, when is this going to end?
I wonder that quite frequently. Geez, when is this going to end? Especially when you're trying to go on vacation and you're still having contact occurring. It doesn't matter whether I'm in Mexico or Scotland or Hawaii or here in Canada. These beings, when they have a fascination with you or they've agreed to work with you during this life, they will follow you no matter where it is you go. And I shouldn't say follow you because it's not like they're standing right behind you at all times, following you like a puppy, but rather they have an awareness of your location. And if they're wanting to make contact with you, they will come pick you up or encounter you no matter where it is upon the planet that you are located at that time. And to get back to the first component of your question, Dave, I didn't ever think that it would only be once or twice, because when I started to actually think back as to how often I was having these really odd dreams about extraterrestrials and always the same groups, or when I would think about, let's say, more of the multidimensional experiences, like, wow, I have a lot of paranormal activity around me. Wow, I've just noticed that it seems to be occurring when I have these experiences with these ETs. I started to really put two and two together, and I looked back and went, this is always happening, coinciding with one another. And it happens on quite a regular basis, even from the time I was a very small child. So now I realize it's never going to go away. It's just going to evolve and change like all things.
At what point did you become acceptable of this? What point did you say, well, I guess this is the way it's going to be, so I might as well accept it instead of trying to change it or try and hope that it would just go away?
Around the time I met you, I actually started to be like, okay, fine, there's nothing really I can do about this. I may as well work with it and stop fighting against it. So 2014.
Did that change you at all, Samantha? When you decided to just throw your hands up in the air and say, screw it, I'm going with this and just seeing the road, riding the road that takes me wherever I'm going?
Yeah, it did. It actually kind of changed everything. I went from viewing myself as just being a intuitive person, a psychic person, and mother and wife, and really just a normal person, being like, okay, I'm also a contactee. And up until that point, I didn't even know the word contactee existed. I didn't think there was much beyond someone being an abductee until I luckily ran across other people who explained to me that there are things such as abductees, contactees, and experiencers. And when I started to learn more about that, I became more comfortable knowing that the way in which I was having contact wasn't always bad, and so I didn't need to be fearful of it, because I was holding on to a lot of fear around it, because I did have judgment about some of the beings that I was working with, and because at that time I didn't think to ask all of the groups that I was encountering questions. With some of them, I felt comfortable off the bat and would just speak very freely, very comfortably, but others I felt judgment towards, in particular some varieties of gray. So that's how it changed me, Dave.
I never knew in 2014 you were battling that when we met. I never knew that.
Well, I'm a pretty private person, all things considered.
True enough.
A little surprising.
Well, you know what? To step into the public eye the way you have, though, at what point did you decide that it was time to finally come to grips with everything and start doing conferences or talking publicly about it or posting on YouTube? Was it something that you jumped right into, or was it something that you've waited for signs or you've waited for messages to say, okay, this is the route I need to take?
Well, the reason why I agreed to do the Countdown to Contact conference was our dear friend Johnny Enoch had asked me to do it, and I thought, okay, I'm very comfortable with this person. I'm very comfortable with the message they're trying to spread. Yes, I'm willing to speak about what I've encountered. But in regards to sharing stuff on YouTube and everything else, when I was really battling what I was encountering, going, okay, I like some of these beings. Some are amazing. Yes, I want to keep working with them. And then I looked at some of the others I was having visit me, ones who aren't necessarily as nice, ones who can make my life challenging and at times, yes, fearful. I looked at other people's encounters and I went, wow, I am so grateful you spoke about that. And one day I was on Pinterest and I saw this one quote, and it said, be the person who you needed when you were younger. And that really sunk into me. And then I thought, okay, universe, what do I need to do to help bring that to light? What can I do for someone else the same way that other people such as Mary Rodwell really helped me? And then the next week, my guide said, okay, make YouTube videos. And I thought, no, I'm not doing that. You can't make me do that. I'm not comfortable in front of a camera like that. And literally, Dave, for the next year, from the end of 2014 all the way to pretty much this spring, I was saying, no guides, no ETs. I'm not doing this. I don't want to do that. Can I please do something else? And they're like, no, we want you to do it this way. And they had explained that the reason they wanted me to share it exactly how I'd written it in my diary and to share every detail I can remember in order of when things started happening around the time, 2014 onward, was they wanted for people to understand the progression of contact and the way in which your vibrational frequency, the way in which you present yourself energetically, and the way that you perceive your contact will modify the way in which different beings interact with you. And will change the way that different, how I've had encounters with grays and then light beings and Pleiadians and everything else. Well, in order for me to really get a better understanding about the diversity within contact on a multidimensional level and on an extraterrestrial level, I needed to understand the differences in my own energy and differences in my own emotion in my life, and how where I was resonating on an energetic level, how that would change which beings came to see me and the way in which those different kinds of beings interacted with me depending upon what was going on in my life and how my energy was presenting itself to them. And I didn't really understand this when it was happening, but in the last couple months, I've come to get a better idea as to how our energy and our thoughts really can determine which beings are interacting with us beyond just soul contracts, beyond our starseed origins for many of us who have contact, and things of that nature.
Have you felt it's been a battle, Samantha, that you've had to go alone on, or did you feel that you've always had some sort of support lines in regards to it?
I've always had support with it, although at times you can even look at your members of your family or other starseeds and be like, I can't quite explain using words what it is I'm trying to convey, because there are certain feelings or not just frustration, but the inability to take all of the experiences of contact and different ways in which contact can present itself in your life, be it telepathic communication with these beings, or them randomly popping in and out of your life, or seeing energetic outlines moving around, or seeing black energies moving around, or let's say the invisible entities. Trying to explain that to people who are starseeds but don't necessarily have their clairvoyance developed can be a very difficult thing at times when you're trying to explain the magnitude in which it's affecting you, or the way how it changes your ability to perceive things. So yes, although I have had support, it can feel very lonely at times.
Couple questions coming in for you. This one coming from Daryl. She is asking, out of all the beings that you have dealt with, which is your most favorite and your least favorite, and why?
Okay. My absolute favorite would be what I call my little brown guy, and I believe he is some form of Andromedan from what you and I have come to understand, although I'm not absolutely certain as to that. And the reason why he's my favorite is I find that whenever I'm traveling, this little being, this beautiful tan little being, always tends to remind me to smile and to really keep my energy playful and to really enjoy things and to know that I'm not alone. Because sometimes when you're like me and you're driving a 15-hour trip by yourself, it can feel very isolating if you're driving late at night and there's no traffic for the last 45 minutes passing you. At that time, you can start to feel a little uncomfortable if you start to feel different energetic presences as you drive through, let's say, different towns. You know how when you're driving on the wrong side of town, especially when it's a town you don't live in, how you can kind of feel the discomfort within your body? Well, when he tends to pop up around those times saying, hey, you're safe, don't worry about it, you're okay. That's part of the reason why I really like him. My least favorite being, and I'm sorry to go for a cliche version of this, is actually a form of reptilian that I have met. I met one in Hawaii, and he was not my favorite. I don't know what color he was, but he felt like he was domineering and he was very aggressive towards me. He did not like my energetic presence in his area, and in his perception, I had invaded his territory. And he was, I hate to say it, but he assaulted me because I had invaded his territory and I was stupid enough not to put up energetic protection around myself. And while I was on vacation with my husband, we did share a bottle of wine. So, of course, my energetic field was more susceptible to being violated. Not all reptilians are bad, so please don't hear what I did not say.
All right. Daryl has a follow-up question for you. She is asking, how many species have you have had contact with, and how tall was the tallest one you've ever seen?
Okay, so I would say about 15 or 16 offhand, and these are extraterrestrial and multidimensional beings. The difference between the two, and I will get back to your tall question in just 1 second, is ones that are only extraterrestrial come from this dimension, but from other planets, versus multidimensional beings are able to go from one dimensional frequency or vibration to another, and they're able to hop between 2 or 3 typically. The tallest one I would see, let me think about that. I want to say 7, 8 feet offhand. And the only reason why I'm saying that tall is I'm not absolutely positive as to how tall the being that you and I saw, Dave, when we were in the woods, how tall they were.
I'm saying the guy that I saw who you think was like a cloaking or something like that, yeah. I'm still strongly believing he was about 10 to 12 feet tall.
So that would probably be the biggest one I have seen, which I find it to be a little bit easier that way. Many of the beings that I've met have typically been somewhere around the 5 through 8 feet range. Although I'm trying to think about how tall Seth's cone was, because he did have more of a cone type head, and they were quite a bit taller than me, but I don't think they were near taller than 7 feet. So that's how tall offhand. Although, just for you, the next time I encounter a new type of being or any other being, I can starting to pay attention to their height, because realistically I haven't been paying attention to that as much as I probably should be.
Well, most of them are taller than you and I combined. So John has a question in the SORs, or in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. He is asking, Samantha, have you ever come face-to-face and met any Pleiadians?
Yes, and typically through astral encounters. The ones that I have met, John, I found that I often will meet them through more of an energetic school-type setting. So when I have met them, and they were my earlier encounters more so than my more recent ones, I find that the Pleiadians that I have met have been more along lines of teaching me how to understand energy, how to manipulate energy, and things along those lines. The last time I recall seeing a Pleiadian was around spring, summer of last year. And it was asking me more along lines of how am I perceiving myself and where is it I see myself going? And then it corrected me saying, no, you're going to be doing this rather than what I had initially thought I'd be doing.
How do you feel when they say you're going to be doing this, not that? That's the direction we're pushing you in. Because a lot of people, Samantha, would take that as you're not the one in control of what you're supposed to do, almost like you're their puppet. How do you deflect that, or how can you translate that into it being more of a guide rather than being a puppet?
In one sense, I can understand their initial perception as seeing it as me being more of a puppet. However, I'd like to make one thing well known around that. For many of us who are aware of what our souls have agreed to do here on this planet, look at the overall scheme of how things have gone on Earth between the 80s through now. The original trajectory of what it is a lot of these beings have projected to being necessary for changes around our planet. Originally, I was supposed to be focusing more on psychic abilities, making people aware of not only energy, but that they are naturally psychic beings and that they are able to harness their own abilities and pull in more of their third eye knowledge, more of that connection to consciousness. Now they've got me focusing on that and including the multidimensional nature of reality and the ways in which our psychic abilities create our ability to contact many of these beings. I don't perceive it as me being a puppet when I encounter these beings, and a lot of them, when you are aware of them and you work with them, will treat you as an equal. They will not treat you as, let's say, them being your drill sergeant and you being the grunt worker. That is not the way in which they are perceiving me. That is not the way they are treating me. When they see you and they're smiling and they're showing respect and they're very excited and they're giving you advice as to how you can better navigate your own life and different things that can be avoided by choosing certain paths and going in certain ways, you will begin to understand that they do care deeply for you and want not only what's best for you, but see how you assisting in this way contributes to the overall bigger picture.
Our resident preacher, Eric Markham, has a question for you. He is asking, Samantha, are there any that exist in a non-physical form that have to interact with corporeal beings through some sort of encounter suit?
I'm not certain what you mean by corporeal beings, Eric. What do you mean by that?
Well, we'll have to wait for that.
And as far as inhabiting a suit, sorry to interrupt you, Dave, I'm not aware of any that are needing to go from a purely energetic form and incorporate a suit in order to interact with us. That does not mean they don't exist. That just simply means I have yet to encounter one and have them reveal that they are doing such to me.
Good times. Good times.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever feel, and I've asked you this before, but did you ever feel depressed, anxiety, or any sort of human nature type problems or mental problems that come up when you start having encounters, like questioning yourself to what reality is and what isn't?
Of course, I think all contactees do, and I think all abductees do as well. For me, it wasn't as much depression. I don't typically get hit with depression as much, but for me, anxiety was a big one, in particular at night, not liking basements, not liking caves, and not liking closets. I still cannot go caving to save my life. It's something that I can't deal with, but that's okay. Anxiety is the one that gets me because many of the encounters that you have with beings that don't necessarily have your best interest at heart do occur at night. In particular, if you are home alone, if you're living in, let's say, the woods and your neighbors are really far away, then yes, nighttime can give you anxiety. And some of my least favorite encounters have occurred at night rather than daytime. Although many of my favorite encounters have occurred at night as well. So there is a bit of a, overtone to it.
Going to the SOR Space Travelers Club, James Borg, the birthday boy, with a question tonight. And his mullet has officially turned, I think, 6 months old as well, which is another celebration. James is asking, Samantha, what was the best extraterrestrial experience you have ever had, and how did it feel? Just go into depth with it.
Oh my God, I really wish I had actually thought about that one for like an hour, James. And by the way, happy birthday and happy half-birthday mullet. My favorite extraterrestrial encounter. Can I get back to you on that one, James? Because I'd really like to think about which one was my favorite.
Okay, we can get back to that one. I'm sure the mullet will allow us to do that. He's got great hair, I'm not going to lie. James is good people, and he believes strongly during the hockey season to have good hockey hair. So I'm all over that. You know that.
I do. I completely do.
Yes, and I'm still riding the high right now of taking my little guy into skating lessons for the first time as we start to prepare him for the 2031 NHL entry draft. So I'm all happy about that. Joe has a question for you. And he is asking, Are the aliens happy with just contacting people with gifts like you, Samantha? Or are they ever going to let the rest of the planet know of their existence?
Well, it's interesting you say that because they're not just contacting people who are more psychically aware. But if you do develop your psychic abilities, which is super easy, super fun, does make life a lot more entertaining and easier to navigate, they will be more inclined to talk with you because many of the beings that we have out there in this universe are operating with their psychic senses as part of their normal senses. So rather than just operating in a 5-sense reality, they are operating in a multi-sense reality beyond even just 6 sense. To be very honest with you, if you want for them to contact you, you do need to develop this to one extent because many of them who are benevolent do not want for you to misinterpret what they're saying or what they're trying to convey to you. And in order to do that, you need to rely on feeling, sensing, and allowing for blocks of information to come into your mind rather than just individual words. I hope that gives you a better idea. And yes, they do intend to make themselves very well known, but they're not willing to do it in a way that is going to jeopardize our planet or to sink us further into the oligarchy that we are in. And at this time, most people are not ready for full disclosure. They're not ready to let's say someone knock on their door, and as they go to open their door, see an extraterrestrial being standing right there saying hello. Most people would freak out if that happened. They wouldn't be likely to invite them in for tea. So they are trying to do more of a soft encounter with people. So many of you will have dreams, or at least what you perceive to be dreams, but are actually astral projection encounters with these beings for years. And you'll just be like, it's so weird. Every once in a while, like every 6 months, I dream about grays, or I dream about towns, or I dream about these humanoids that look a little bit different, or things of that nature. That is them gently getting you used to their presence, their energy, and the more you start to be like, okay, I did encounter that, the more they're like, oh, great, they finally understood they're having encounters. Let's go in a lot more and start really increasing our presence so they know that we're actually there. That is more what they're trying to do.
I'm not going to lie, since Mrs. Spaced Out Radio's had me on the diet, I've been dreaming about Taco Bell and Big Macs from McDonald's.
Ugh, no thanks. Sorry.
Oh, man. I'm just, even saying the words, my mouth starts to water. It's absolutely sick. I know. Shar is asking in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, have you ever been able to tell them, whoever you are having an encounter with, no, not today? Yes,
quite often, and they don't always want to hear it. Sometimes they get very, very mad at you, Shar, especially if you're like me. Well, oh God, I think that's actually probably one of the most common phrases I've said to ETs, be it awake or asleep, is, I'm not in the mood for this, go away, which probably is baffling to most people. But I am quite busy in life, and I don't want to always have contact. And that probably sounds really bad, but like, let's say, Shar, you're like me, and you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're wide awake, and you feel this insane and strong energetic pulsation above your house, which gives you the very strong awareness instantly that there's craft above my house, and you feel what kind of beings are in there, and you get the sensation of, okay, those are not so nice grays outside. And you know that you put energetic protection around your house, and you remember to put it around the rest of your family, but you fell asleep before you remember to put it around yourself. And you have those beings trying to tell you to go to sleep, trying to overpower your mind to get you to go to sleep. And then you're like, no, I'm not doing it, not tonight. I will literally stay up. And I've had encounters where they're like, you need to go to sleep. And they will start to change the way in which your energetic body is interacting with itself, the way in which you're, like when you're starting to fall asleep, you know how your body starts to feel heavy and it starts to feel calm. It starts to feel almost like, how can I best describe it? Almost like a sinking feeling. Well, typically before your soul astral projects out of your body, you get that sinking feeling, and then you go and project upwards. And normally they're trying to take you on an astral level rather than a physical level. And I've had times where I've been like, okay, you're not taking me right now. I'm not doing this. Go away. And they will try that for an hour or an hour and a half or even 2 hours until they finally are not able to actually do it and they leave. And that can be absolutely exhausting when you have encounters like that. But for me, the reason that one had happened was I had told my higher self, any implants on an energetic level that my body does not need, I want you to get rid of them. I want to get rid of them. Make it so I got rid of them. And I got very, very sick for about 2 weeks by doing that. And as soon as my body was starting to be on the mend again, I noticed a strong increase in my psychic abilities. I noticed that I was perceiving energy differently, that I wasn't having the same negative energetic beings coming around at that time. And then that was when I went to bed and I woke up at 3 a.m. and I had those really unpleasant grays trying to get me. So the next night after those beings weren't able to get me, I thought, great, they've come, they've gone, they're going to leave me alone for a bit. That's perfect. I put up energetic protection on my house, my family again, fell asleep again before I got to me. And then I was pulled astrally, literally to some form of deep underground base where I had 3 or 4 grays chasing myself and another woman. And she was saying, I'm tired, I'm tired. I'm like, how are you tired? This is our astral bodies. You can't be tired when it's your astral body. It doesn't quite work that way. But she allowed for her feelings and energetic fear really to overwhelm her aura. And by doing that, they were able to get her. And later they ended up capturing me as well because I had encountered this area where I couldn't pull my energy upwards to leave the hallway. I couldn't pull myself through a wall into another direction. None of that was working. And when they were walking me to this other area, it was horrible. I ended up walking down this hallway, and off to my left, there was this room. Pardon me for coughing. And there was this bed, and there was a man in there, and he had one being beside him. There was that woman that I was running with, and she was laying down, and they were putting something into her body. And when you see stuff like that, you know, okay, you can say as much as you want towards some beings that you're not going to take me tonight. I don't want to go with you. And some of the bad ones, it's very hard to keep them away unless you're really on top of it. And for me, for quite a while, I changed my energetic protection every 2 weeks because I found that things were able to break into whatever system I had put in place. And so for about a year and a half, every week or every 2 weeks, I was changing it, trying to modify it or just make it so I wasn't having encounters with some of these less than kind beings. And I hope that gives you a better idea about it, Char.
Mario is asking, what defensive or offensive steps do you take against a violent ET?
Typically, they are not violent. I found the only ones that really have any form of violence towards me was just the one male reptilian that I encountered when I was in Hawaii. But you are able to do, like, let's say, Mario, you go to sleep tonight, and when you wake up, let's say it doesn't matter whether it's your physical body or your astral body, and you're in the presence of some form of extraterrestrial that is being hostile towards you. Let's say you'll sense its energy being hostile right away. First thing you need to look at is, okay, what kind of being is being hostile towards me? What is its size? You can feel whether something is stronger than you or not. My best recommendation for you is with most beings, you're better off not fighting physically, but we have a tremendous amount of strength within us on an energetic level. I would instantly connect to God, Source, Prime Creator, whatever it is you wish to call it. The one, that energetic vibration, that very strong unity, love consciousness, and pull as much of that energy into your auric body as possible. In particular, pull it in towards your heart and push your aura outwards, because many of the beings that are hostile are operating on a vibration that is of a lower vibration, a denser vibration, and they are not able to tolerate that strong love frequency. If you decide that you're going to physically go attack them, it is not going to go over well for you, I would say probably 90% of the time, because they are aware of what your physical body's limitations and capabilities are, but you are going in fighting a blind opponent. You have no idea what or you be the blind opponent. You would not be able to read them very easily. Think about it, Mario. You and I do not know exactly where the physical weak points are on a reptilian, on a gray, on a humanoid ET. We don't know that because we are not taught that. No matter how much of your soul information you begin to remember, chances are that's not something that's going to come forward easily, and many of the benevolent beings will not willingly give you that information. So even obtaining that can be difficult. So I would recommend going straight towards that energetic consciousness to push them away rather than physically attacking them.
What if you point your fingers like guns at them and go, pew, 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 pew?
Okay,
No?
Well, turn your
No?
phone on and let the rest of us see how that goes, because I really want to know.
Yeah, I'll remember to turn the phone on. I haven't remembered yet. Anyhow, let's get to another question. The questions are just flowing through tonight, so we're just going to run with it, because we actually do have a show topic for tonight. But let's get through the questions first here. Saber is asking, not sure if this is a proper question, Samantha, but are you a fan of movies, television shows about extraterrestrials? And if so, which ones do you think depict them as the most accurate?
Okay, I love movies, although I do find many movies contain way too much propaganda, be it in one way or another, and subliminal programming, and that's why many people are afraid of these beings. But the best way to describe how light beings look, or angelic beings, would be the movie that has Nicolas Cage in it, Knowing. That is a beautiful depiction of these beings. When you see them and they actually have a very humanoid, bipedal type physical physique, and they look very smoky and wispy, that is the best way to describe them. If you want to have a really good idea about what many of the reptilians look like, if you go towards some of the older movies, like Rosemary's Baby is a really good example of it. Episode 2 or 3 of the show, one second, thank you, God, Supernatural. There's an episode where those 2 young men end up going to the woods because people are being picked off every 5 or 8 years. And in the opening scene, when there's this being in a cave, that is the perfect outline of how I've seen many of the reptilians. They've got the physique down pat. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Movies. I wish I had thought about movies earlier. If you want to have a really good idea about what a lot of gray type beings look like, or do you remember that encounter I had in the woods where I woke up in the middle of the night and I found myself in my hallway, and then I woke up in the cabin in the woods, and there was that little white being?
Yes.
in that encounter, the closest way I can describe how she looks is if you go watch Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the very last section when they're showing the shorter little whites. That's a very good example of how she looks very, very close, although the head's a little bit too big, but that's a very close representation. If you look at the movie Coneheads, they don't look like that. Their cones are not straight up. Their cones are on a slight angle. They are nowhere near that tall. I would say probably only half to two-thirds of what they're showing at their faces do not have that same humanoid, quirky expression because they don't seem to have the same facial... you know how we're very expressive beings with our faces to the point that's probably really comical if you're any other entity? They don't have the same facial cues that we do. They're a lot more, not serious, but almost like they have more of a balanced brain and more of a balanced control over their emotions. So they don't really have that same depiction of themselves, I guess is a good way to put it. Let me think. Other movies. I'm sorry, those are just the movies I can think of offhand. So.
What about something like Signs, where they had that real green-looking guy?
No. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually was watching Signs the other day because I stumbled across it on Netflix when I was vacuuming. And I'm like, oh, perfect. Well, let's see what's going on here because I want to remember what their ETs look like. And although they try to really... If you look at the hand in Signs, that is a very close representation to a lot of reptilian hands. Although they try to make that being look in its face like it's more of a mantis-type being, it's not. The body is so reptilian. I've never seen a body look like that was anything but reptilian. So it's amazing what they're revealing to us through Hollywood, and they're even telling us typically which beings are more hostile versus which ones are kinder and better. Or not better, but just operating differently. Because I guess really none of them are good or bad. It's just your point of awareness as to what you've currently incarnated in and how they're choosing to depict themselves. But I'm going off on a tangent again.
A friend of mine in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia who is of First Nations descent, he actually called me up one day and said, Dave, I have a picture for you and I want your opinion. And I said, okay. And so he came over and he brought me this picture and he goes... This is from my daughter's room in the basement. I would like to know what you think it is. Mm-hmm. And it was an unfinished basement. Yes. And the daughter had said that there was a 6-7 foot extraterrestrial in the basement that night. She didn't know if it was taking her or in the process of dropping her back. And the picture that he showed me, there's actually, do you remember that scene in Fire in the Sky where the character playing Travis Walton looks out the window after he is found and he sees the fingerprints kind of sliding down the window?
Nope, but I will definitely go download that movie and watch it tomorrow.
Okay, so on the truss that is holding up the basement ceiling, there is actually 4 large fingerprints dotted, and you can see them kind of sliding down the 2x10 piece of wood. It is absolutely eerie, because you could tell, it's either a giant of a man who is causing that, or it's something totally, totally different, which, in my opinion, I want to believe it, but man, did it look freaky. It was absolutely weird. I wish he would have given me a copy of that photo. That's for sure.
And if I may interject for just 1 minute, I wanted to get back to James and his question, because he asked what my favorite encounter was. So, James, I'm going to share an encounter with you that I actually have never shared with, the public outside of a couple of very, very close friends. And this encounter happened on April 9th, 2015. And I'd like for you to know that this is really personal, and because it's your birthday, I'm more than willing to share it. Anyways, in this encounter, it was an astral projection, and I was shown one of the homes that I'm going to have in the future. And I dreamt I was in the bathroom of my home, and I was standing in front of the mirror, and I was either taking off my makeup or putting it on. And as I was standing there, I remember I was listening to my music on my phone. And a moment later, I noticed the reflection of I hate to say it, but I did call it a gray, but it wasn't really a gray, but that was the closest way to describe it offhand. Its coloring wasn't gray, it was more white. And it was looking in on me from the window, and I was startled. And as I turned around for a second, I looked at the being, and I let out a bit of a scream, because realistically, I am someone who startles. If I saw anyone looking at me in the reflection of a mirror, if I wasn't expecting them, I'd probably shriek or scream or something just offhand. And then this being decided it was going to run. And then I look at myself and I'm like, this is stupid. I don't want to be afraid. And so I got up from where I was and I walked over to the window, and I could see two beings actually running away from me, not just one outside. And it was going from my home, and it was going deep into the woods. And I tried to call it with my voice, but I didn't have the ability to reach them. So I'm like, hey, hey, and I guess I wasn't loud enough. So I called very loudly telepathically, I'm like, stop. And the two beings stopped. And I called for the being that was looking out on me to come back because I wanted to see him. And he came back to me very quickly. But as he was running, it was something that I had never seen any of them do before, because they were running on their hands and their feet. They were not running straight up like we run or like how many bipedal beings run. So I was a bit surprised to see him running so quickly in that way. And when he came back to me as quickly as he had left me, and he was smaller than me, he bounded towards me like in leaps and bounds like a small child would do. And I picked him up with his head and his shoulders. They were pressed up against one arm, and I had his leg in the other arm, almost like you would hold a little child when you're really loving them. And I sang to him one of my favorite songs. And as I sang to him, he sent me a great amount of tremendous loving energy. And I forgot to mention that when he came through the bathroom window, he felt so familiar to me. And I was excited to see them. And I knew who it was right away. I recognized this being. And when I was singing to him, he had the smallest little smile, but for him that was like a really big grin. And it was just such a beautiful experience to have one of these beings come forward in that way and to feel safe with me with his little arms wrapped around my neck and under my hair. It was, I love that encounter. That one's probably my favorite.
Was it one of your astral children?
Yeah, he's one of my kids. He's not going to incarnate, but he's one of my kids.
That is deep.
It was a beautiful encounter. I liked it.
I can see that. Let's get to Spears' question in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. She is asking, what about the abduction cases where they just take you wide awake? So you'll be walking in a hallway and then, boom, all's frozen, time to go.
That's not a pleasant experience, and that would end up happening. What would you like for me to explain around that, Spears? Do you want me to explain ones I've had like that, or would you like to?
Yeah, if you don't mind, because where she's chatting, it's on about a 30-second delay. So for me to get an answer, it would be time-consuming.
Okay, so for me, when stuff like that is typically happening, they don't normally take me. Most of my conscious encounters, when I have them, are more positive. They'll be walking, like peeking their head around a tree, and you'll feel time slow down. Then you'll see them be like, oh, okay, you're right there. And then you'll look and it won't really feel like anything's different. I don't have negative encounters where they pick me up in the daytime and do that. Typically, when it's like that, it's more benevolent. I don't have negative ones happening. The only ones that have modified my time like that have been varieties of gray, but typically they've been nicer grays rather than mean grays. Mine are more likely to have more occurred when I was on the farm at my mom's and I was growing up, where you'd notice kind of like an odd time lapse where you think you saw something in the woods and you're like, whoa, what happened? And then it feels like it's a while later. But I'm someone who I can't wear watches. If I wear a watch, it dies on me. My cell phone almost dies on me 2 or 3 times a day because I typically drain batteries. I've had a lot of missing time where I think I see something, then I'll notice it's a while later, but I won't remember what happened. So I'm sorry I can't elaborate too much on that for you, Spears.
Let's get to Claudia's question in the SOR Space Travelers. Do you leave the physical body, or is it an energy body only, or maybe a consciousness only when you have contact?
No, I've had quite a bit occur while I have been awake and woke woken up quite a few times to them sitting on my bed or being in my room or things of that nature. It is very easy to initiate contact with most of the non-meddling species through your astral body, which really you can divide it into two sections. You have your physical body and you have your soul. Well, if you look at the different layers of your soul, then you can break it down to your auric body, you can break it down to all of the other components of it, such as your chakras and what have you. But realistically, when you're making contact, it is easier in your astral body than in your physical body. So if you want to have contact, learn how to astral project and learn your psychic abilities. Then you'll be able to see them more easily.
Let's get to Gail's question. Samantha, is it possible to actually injure an extraterrestrial? I believe I bit one's finger off.
Ooh, that does not sound pleasant, Gail. And yes, you could definitely injure them, although most of them would have the technological capabilities to repair it. Gail, the only times where I think I have possibly caused any form of injury to a being would be my encounter I had with Danny, where he was projecting himself as one form, and the energetic wave that came out of my chest hit him and took him back to being his more standard physical appearance. That's the only time I can recall ever doing anything that could possibly have hurt one of them.
Continuing on, Mario has a question for you. He is asking, Samantha, I have a spec ops team following me. One was a white man who showed me his tongue. It was a lizard-type tongue. Was he just playing with me, or was it real, or my imagination? My gut says he is a reptoid with bad intentions. Yep. What would be your thoughts?
If I were to be in your situation and I saw someone whose energy made me feel uncomfortable and you see a lizard tongue, chances are they are some form of reptilian hybrid. Most of the human race is hybrid of one thing or multiple things or another. But a lot of our government control ones, unfortunately, do have more of us. Like, we all have reptilian DNA in our physical bodies. That's fine. But they have a stronger amount of it, a greater increase in it. And because of such, they are more prone to living the way that that DNA affects them based upon their culture and their culture's history. If I saw it, Mario, and I were in your shoes, I would do a lot of energetic protection around myself, things that raise my vibration, things that make it so they were not as inclined to be near me. Because many of the reptilians, although they can be incredibly psychic beings, be very spiritual beings, any that are being threatening or hostile towards you do not have a high vibration. So if you are carrying more of a high vibration, they will not want to come near you because you will physically make them uncomfortable. It's almost like if any of you have ever been near someone who was a sexual predator or someone who was wanting to beat you up, you know how you can feel that strong resonance as to them not liking you, them intending you harm? It is the same energetic signature, basically, as many of these hostile beings. You'll recognize it right away for what it is. I'm sorry that you're going through this, but Mario, if they're following you and they have this much of an interest in you, you're probably doing something to really help humanity. And you're threatening to them.
Let's move on here. Saber has a question. Can you go astral while you are sleeping? And if so, how do you tell the difference between it and a dream?
Okay, so in a basic dream, everything will flow completely effortlessly. It can seem sporadic. There is absolutely really no control. You don't really think. It's almost like a mindless experience. But when you're going and you're astral projection is a very easy thing to learn how to do. My favorite book for learning how to do astral projection is called Astral Dynamics. It's very affordable. It's like $20 or $25. And what you're doing when you're astral projecting is when you're going to sleep, you begin to have conscious awareness of when you're shifting from your physical body and going out of your body. So let's say you were to lay down right now and you were someone who could astral project. As you close your eyes and you start to get in that relaxed state, you would be still feeling awake as your body went to sleep, and you would be able to rise up out of your body, out of your room, and if you want to, you could fly out of there and be able to see what your friend was doing across town. You could go check on your family members. You could, depending upon where it is you want to go. Another really, I'm sorry to recommend a book again, but there's a book called The Multidimensional Traveler by, I believe it is Katrina Go. And she helps explain the different resonance and vibration. So let's say you're going to bed and you're frustrated, or you're sad, or you're drunk, or you're high. You are more likely to astral project into the lower astral, so a lower dimensional frequency than the Earth is currently occupying. And as a result, you know those dreams that you have where it's nighttime and it's a very bleak world and it looks like everyone's angry and you're not feeling safe and it's zombie dreams or apocalypse or anything along those lines? That is the lower astral. It is a very hostile place. Versus if you're going to bed and your energy is more focused on being peaceful, loving, it can feel serene, or if you're happy, things of that nature, you have the ability to astral project to not only our current dimension and see what your family members are doing who are still awake, but you're able to astral project to other dimensions that are of a higher dimensional frequency because your soul doesn't have the same constraints as your physical body. So I hope that explains it better.
And on that note, we're going to hop out for a break. Samantha Mowat is our guest. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of every month. We'll be right back after this break on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET Contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mowat. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET Contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, hour number 2 of the ET Experience with Samantha Mowat is underway. Tomorrow night on the show, the Crypto Guru is back. Yes, Ronald Murphy will be back, and he's bringing with him the Crypto Kid. We're going to meet Colin, a young lad who is making headwaves in the cryptid world, and we're going to talk with him and Ron tomorrow night on the mighty SOR, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Hey, Bill Cardwell has set tonight's password. If you're an SOR space traveler, you're going to want to get this one in. Concurrence is your password. So nice of you, Bill, to give me one I could pronounce. Concurrence is your password for tonight. If you are an SOR Space Travelers Club member, use it wisely, as the password you know is all-knowing. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. You can also follow us on TuneIn and, as of last week, on iTunes as well. You can download any episode you like. I was actually surprised. Checked out Spaced Out Weekend a couple minutes afterwards and actually saw how quickly the show gets on iTunes right after the show. It was kind of cool. If you haven't joined the SOR Space Travelers Club yet, it's only $5 a month. With that, you get your name put into monthly prize draws. You get access to private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and so much more. Hey, we're going to give you a heck of a lot more than just access to our archives. We bring in Samantha Mowat with the ET Experience. Samantha, welcome back.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Very, very active audience tonight. And let's get to some questions from them, if you don't mind. This one, let's start off from 10 forward in the Revolution Radio chat room. And they are asking, Samantha, do you have any insight as to why someone, such as myself, might have a strong, lifelong draw towards the sky and space and all topics regarding space and or extraterrestrials?
Well, chances are the reason why you're so fascinated by it and have this longing to be a part of it and understand it is because it's intertwined with your life purpose and your soul origin. I find that most people whose souls are not from Earth, but are very heavily, much like, let's say, empathic in nature, or just really feeling like they don't belong here and have a strong preoccupation with space, are actually starseeds and have agreed to come here to help this planet. And the reason why you're feeling such a pull out there is you know that that is where you are from. That is where you belong. It's almost like you've been, I hate to put it this way, but dumped here and have forgotten everything. It's a very common thing for a lot of starseeds.
And I know exactly what they're talking about, but because before I had my experiences, I was always staring up at the stars, and now I find like I'm studying them. I don't look up the constellations or anything. I rarely do, but it's amazing how you just feel that pull up there, and you know there is something missing along those lines, Samantha. And, you know, it's not simple mathematics where 2 and 2 makes 4. You know, you're staring up at the sky and you know there's something out there for you. You just can't pinpoint it. And I guess that's what a lot of people run through.
It's almost like you're looking for a message in the stars, something that you put there for yourself, something to trigger you and remind you. And that's why you're looking up there. For me, I found that for the longest time, even before I even knew about the Pleiades or before I knew about Lyra or things like that, I would always look to that. I always looked at that constellation and went, wow, I don't know what it is about you, but I feel something connecting me to you. I feel like this is a part of me. And if you find that you're always looking in the night sky and you're drawn to one particular constellation or one particular star, get out your phone, see what it is you're looking at, and see if that is where you're from. Because many people will naturally be drawn towards their soul family, their star family, and that's often where they look and they don't know why they're so fixated on this one star or area of the sky.
Let's get to Claudia's question in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Claudia is asking, have you ever been shown other cities out in space? If so, what was it like? What did you see?
Well, the ones that I've typically seen, Claudia, I was taken one time to Mars by Seth, and that took me straight to being underground, so that doesn't really count as a city, although it was very bustling with life. But it reminded me more of an airport than a city, in the sense that it felt massive, yet still very contained, yet almost... There was just such a diversity of life there. God, I lost track at how many different kinds of species I saw. I saw a lot of different kinds I didn't even recognize. The only times that I remember being taken to different cities, I've already shared a few of those experiences, were when I was in the encounter with a bunch of other women and were taken off planet afterwards. When I've been taken back towards Tegeta, which is, well, I explained that one last time. That's more along the lines of what I've seen. I don't often find myself on a planet just looking around. I often find myself face to face with a being, either in a room or on a craft or somewhere that I don't fully recognize, and I'm more fixated on the being who's speaking to me than what's typically around me. Sorry.
Claudia has another question for you. Have you ever been shown, or have they shown you, the Akashic Records? If so, where were you taken to be able to view this?
They have not shown me the Akashic Records, but you are able to learn how to access the Akashic Records on your own. And typically it's done through a deep conscious meditation where you consciously astral project, or what is known as remote viewing rather than astral projection. So the active remote viewing is when you still leave your body and go to a different area. You'll find yourself pulled out of your body, out to a different dimension, a much higher one that is very library-like. And depending upon where you go, like when I've gone to it, it looks more Grecian in a lot of ways with pillars. But I don't typically see scrolls. I tend to just see energy and information brought to me rather than books or scrolls, although some people say they see books and scrolls, so maybe it's what you identify with and what you read. But no, I have not had ETs or multidimensionals just flat out take me there. I did learn how to go do it, and I didn't find it was something I enjoyed doing, Claudia, because for me, when I would access any information about my life or my past lives, I would have pounding migraines afterwards for a couple days. So it's something I've only done half a dozen times.
Question from John in the Space Out Radio chat room. Samantha, what kind of planets have you visited in the astral or remember having lived on in a previous life? 2 I can recall at the moment were a desert world with bright white sand and cliffs, and 2, a world that was warm and moist, but in the dark most of the time. Although there was a moon, a bright moon, in the sky larger than ours. Well, sounds like British Columbia is where he lived, but that's nonetheless.
Well, fair enough. John, those sound like absolutely amazing worlds. The ones that I can recall being on is I remember one world with Danny, and the one that I had lived on there, it was very interesting because it looked very meadow-like in many ways. I don't recall seeing mountains on this world, but I do recall seeing a crystalline building that looked like it was made of this bluey white crystal, and it was almost like an entire city contained within one giant crystal building. And what I found interesting around this world is it didn't have the same plant life that we do, but they did have these beings that were partially mushroom-like. And that was one world that I recall seeing. When I was shown more of the Tegeta type world, I was shown more of the blues and purples and like more of a lavender pinky colors in the sky, and it was quite beautiful. It did look very lush, almost tropical in one sense, in the sense that it was very different flora than what we have here in BC, Dave. Our flora tends to be very, I don't know, almost like it's closed off, like we don't have the big bushy leaves that a lot of the more tropical places have. But when I was there, I saw bigger leaves on things. It looked very greener. There was a whole, it's almost like, you know how when you're looking at color, and you know how colorblind people don't have the same depth and perception of colors because they see a variety of different colors of gray? I find that when I astral project, colors are more vibrant and aware. So that's one of the other worlds that I've been on and have lived on. Oh God, let me think about other ones. I find that the most common lives, John, that I've recalled, outside of the ones where I recall being with Danny or finding myself on craft for most of one life, I have found that my most common ones to recall are my most recent. So my 10 most recent lives on Earth over the last 2,000 years. Those are more what I have a recollection of over my past lives there. Although, if you do want to start remembering more of your past lives, you can do something that I'm doing, which is every time you start having a past life memory surface, or even just a component of your soul, just say, I want to remember more. I give myself permission to remember more. And you will start to remember more. You will have more past lives coming to the surface. One life that I've been trying to figure out for a while, and I'm not sure how fully relevant this one is in relation to what you're asking. I remember myself being incarnated as a tree, but it didn't look like it was a tree here on Earth. It looked similar to a willow, but it was very different in the sense that my leaves were green and silver, and I had more of a conscious connection to everything that was around me, but it didn't feel Earth-like. And I know that's not ET related, but it felt like a different planet. So I want for your listeners, Dave, to be very aware that our lives aren't just always living, like in a bipedal form. You can incarnate as animals or ETs or multidimensionals or plants. There's a whole spectrum of it that we're all interconnected to. Sorry for not fully answering your question, John.
I have a question from Fedator in the Wolf Spirit Radio chat room. And they are asking, do you know where the planet Deocote in the Pleiades is? And which planets hold human life around the star Taygeta?
I don't know, but I also haven't asked them. I'm sorry, but my mind doesn't work like that. Typically, when I ask, okay, well, where am I just want to get a general idea, and then I tend to go towards different information when I talk to them. I'm also not very good at remembering to ask beings their names or where they're from half the time, but that is something I am working to improve upon.
I know that from personal experience with you.
I'm trying.
Shar is asking, have you ever seen a Christian or religious person be taken?
I've seen my family members be taken, and they're Catholic, so I would like to say yes. Loosely Catholic, but Catholic.
Mario is asking, Samantha, have you been in a UFO? If so, what was the most beautiful planet or solar system that you have visited? Please describe.
Yes, I have been on craft many, many times, and the most beautiful place that I've been to, I'm sorry, but I do not know the name of it. And the way that I can best describe it was that world that I was taken to, where it was just that encounter I had with the other women, where we're taken off that craft and we're taken to that other planet, and the sky was just so vibrant and bright, but I can't even describe it. It's honestly like the colors are more alive, and like the energy is fresh, and oh my god, I'm trying to describe it, Mario, but it's really hard to describe how different a lot of these worlds are. It's like when you're trying to describe North America to someone who's only ever grown up in Saudi Arabia. It is completely different. The one world that really sticks out that I should tell you about is one time it was an astral projection, not taken on craft, but the world that I had went to, it looked like it was meadows, except there were mountains in the background that were much taller than any of ours, and they were not gray. They looked like crystal mountains in the background. And the world seemed very similar to Danny's in a lot of ways, because it was a giant crystalline structure that felt like it was a part of the mountain that was standing, almost like it was placed upon this area of Earth based upon its location for healing and energy. And it's like there was conscious thought and awareness was really thought about before the building was put there. And when I was outside, I looked up at the sky, and the sky wasn't the same as ours. I didn't see a single cloud initially when I looked up. I saw more of a deep, deep color, but it wasn't blue. I remember looking around, and when I was looking around, I saw it wasn't grass. It was more like a mossy bottom. And when I'm looking, I saw these beautiful flowers and these beautiful mushrooms, but I knew instantly that they weren't mushrooms and they weren't flowers. They were giant. They were like, think 8 or 10 inches in size as far as their, diameter is concerned. And these beings, the flowers and mushrooms that I thought were flowers and mushrooms, actually popped up out of the ground like they were partially embedded into the ground, but they were kind of standing up after a moment because they felt this energetic surge. And when I looked up at the sky, I saw these black and gray energetic clouds coming in. And the part that really threw me off about this was it looked like the air was crackling, like it was alive, and like something had been twisted energetically. Something had been changed within this world to really make it so that such chaos was happening. And these beings, they were so small. They were only a foot or so tall. And at first, I really did think that they were part of the landscape. And this is part of where I started to understand that if you're having like lives as other plants, then you're not necessarily on Earth. It hadn't occurred to me that there could be plant-like multidimensional beings out there. But it looked like they were a part of this world, yet they could stand up and walk around. They were very, very small, but their heads were, one of them, one group of them, their heads were mushrooms, and the other ones had more flower heads, and it baffled me because they had never encountered fear before. They didn't know what to make of this energy, this emotion, and they had not really expected to see such chaos coming. But their world had been invaded, and it's completely hard to understand the amount of life that I saw there, the diversity of plant life. It was warmer. It wasn't sandy. It was, if you think of a mountain meadow, a very similar energy to that, but picturing a very lush, like conscious forest where everything is interconnected and can still sense their energy and vibration. It's, I can't describe it. That is the most different place that I've ever been to, but the most beautiful. When you're on craft, you don't often look out a window. Many of the times I've been on craft, I find them in the middle of a craft. I don't find them in a room where is on the outside wall where you can look out at a window. Many of the beings do not tell you where you are going. Even if you're being taken astrally or you're astral projecting on your own, you will not often know exactly where you are going. It's like you're one place one moment and then you're pulled somewhere very quickly the next. It's very hard to explain to people who aren't having it happen, but when you learn how to do it, life does become more interesting. Sorry for the tangent.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. And a follow-up question from Spear on that same question. Did the mountains shimmer pink in the sun, and did they shimmer pink all around in the atmosphere?
I don't recall, because when I put it in my diary, I didn't think to put down color. And I have so many encounters that I can't say with all due honesty knowing which color it was, guys. I'm sorry. I remember the clouds that were coming in were black and gray, and they were rippling with energy, and it was terrifying for these beings.
Let's move on to another question. This one comes from Robert Rose in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is asking, my wife is Rh negative, and when she was pregnant, a mantid in a cloak like a monk was in our room. To your knowledge, are all Rh negative people with reptilian traits waiting to be activated for something? If so, what is that?
I do not know if we are being activated for something or waiting to be activated for something. I'm Rh negative, and I've found that all of humanity has reptilian traits within them because we all contain DNA that is in part reptilian, hence the reptilian part of our brain. If I do find out, though, I will let you know. And one thing I have found is almost every single person who I know who is Rh negative does have contact. And if they are female, they will be visited while pregnant. That is almost a given.
No problem. No problem. Let's get to another question here. Let's get to Claudia's in the SOR Space Traveler. She is asking, for a week I had a panel of beings. They were in brown robes. They were teaching me everything in my dreams around an oval table, explaining why we were here, what we are made of, etc. It seemed like a week of going to school. At the end of the week, my brain needed a rest. I said, please don't come for a while, so they stopped. After that, I drew 9 drawings to try and remember a lot of what they told me. Do you know who the men are who are bald and in brown robes? Have you seen them or had any contact with them?
No, I have not seen men in brown robes. But there is one thing I can recommend for you to do, Claudia. If you want, these beings are clearly very, very interested in you. You can send them a telepathic message saying, I would like to know your names. I would like to know what it is you want me to do. And when you're ready, you can tell them when you'd like for them to return. Claudia, if I saw them, I could probably get a better idea of who they are if I have had any interaction with beings similar to them. But judging by the feeling that I'm getting around these men, it does feel benevolent. It does feel as though they are very aware of you and very conscious of your soul. And they seem to be presenting you with knowledge because you're at a state that is receptive to it. If you're ready to learn more, they will obviously come back and give you a lot more information because clearly you're at a very heightened state for it. That is amazing. If I were in your position and I were going through this, I would start asking them to come to me on a more conscious level as well. Because if they're coming to you on an astral level, that also means that they can come see you physically, but they'll probably want to do it in a way that you're very comfortable with, so that would be more with your psychic abilities. They are contacting you because you are awake and conscious. That's amazing. Good. I'm so excited for you. Yay!
It almost sounds like it's some sort of council that she was sitting with.
I would say so, especially when it has a school-like setting. She's describing them as being very humanoid, so they obviously are some form of human, more evolved human being. That is awesome, because chances are these are beings that she's worked with before she even incarnated here. So, Claudia, did you have a sense of recognition towards them, or a sense of almost like you've worked with them before, or that you know them on some soul level? Because they don't generally just pop up to strangers. When we have contact with many of the benevolent beings, we've known them for many, many lifetimes. And they're aware of what they agree to help us with before we come in here to incarnate. So.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. A question about Rh negative blood. This one comes from Dawn. Do you think that the extraterrestrials take the Rh pregnancies? Is that why there are so many miscarriages?
Yes, some groups do take a lot of the Rh negative pregnancies. Unfortunately, that's something that I have been plagued with throughout my 20s, is finding that I'm presenting pregnancy symptoms, everything from breast hurting to late periods to feeling pregnant, because you can feel energetically when your body is pregnant, and then all of a sudden you'll have an ET encounter, and then the next day your period will show up. Well, to me, when you're having stuff like that, you're like, okay, they took my baby. Or, okay, there was something that wasn't going to quite work out with this one. And I don't mean to sound as emotionless towards it as I probably come across, but for the most part, that's okay. Because a lot of people do, pardon me for coughing, agree to have this done before they incarnate. Although some people obviously do not, and they have an awareness of it. I don't find that people who aren't not Rh negative have this happen to the same degree. In particular, it seems like it's a lot of very younger women. Like, if you think about how late women are having babies now, pardon me, it's in their 30s and 40s. I don't find that the ETs seem as interested in the women that are able to give birth in their 30s and 40s as they are in their 20s. The Rh negatives in their 20s have it a lot more than their 30s and beyond.
I think this is a great question from Daryl in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. Mm-hmm. When you have been taken off planet, have you ever been offered a meal or a drink, heard any music or jokes, seen any photos or where their homes are or how they're decorated?
Okay, one step at a time, Daryl. I have not noticed whether I've heard music. I've never been offered food or drink to the best of my recollection. Nope, my guides are correct to me. I've been offered drink once, but that was by a Palladian-type being. As far as decorations are concerned, let me get into that one first before I go on to jokes. In my last encounter that I've had with Palladians, I encountered another psychic that I know quite well. And I was taken to a garden-type area. They did have some form of paving stones on the ground. They did have chairs similar to what we have outside. They aren't metal, but they felt like they were more beautifully constructed and very aware. They did have some tables outside. The weather was quite beautiful. It was different lighting in more of a twilight type sense, but more of the bright twilight rather than the darker hours of twilight. And they did have gardens that were quite colorful and lush and vibrant and full of energy. And it felt like someone had consciously chosen what would be placed where. I did see a few things like more artistically created bowls and things of that nature. And there was one table that, oddly enough, had a series of decks, thinking tarot or oracle decks, which surprised me when I initially saw these two men beings. And anyway, getting to the point of that one, I would like to find out from others if they've encountered any other Palladians that have decks. I was surprised to see a form of tarot deck on that realm, because up until that point, I hadn't really played with tarot very much, and since then I've tried to understand it to figure out why they'd shown this to me. So that is what I've seen with them. In regards to jokes, yes, some ETs tell very, very silly jokes. I was having a really tough time last year at one point, and I had this really odd encounter where I was walking through a building, and as I was walking through a building, I look outside the building on a very high floor, and there's a craft, I kid you not, right there, 100 or so feet out. And then I start seeing these beings that are a form of tan jumping out of there dressed in clown suits saying, "Stop taking things so seriously. You need to laugh. You need to have fun. It's not that bad right now. We're still here. It's okay." And I mean, you think about their sense of humor. It's not like they're going to say, "Hey, knock, knock, who's there?" They view humor totally differently, and the way they orchestrate their jokes it's just so different. They try to choose things that they think will make us laugh or seem really ridiculous. So that is more how I've encountered jokes. And I'm sorry, what was the other part, Dave?
If they had like swimming pools or what their decor was in their home, have you ever been shown?
I haven't noticed homes. I've been in buildings that were different, but they didn't seem to have that same home energy. Most of the buildings that I've been to when I've been off planet are crystalline in nature. Feeling like they took crystals that were very much so alive and either grew them in such a way or encouraged their growth in that manner. I haven't seen things that were more of a normal home like what we have, like pictures on the wall or things of that nature. So, yeah.
Question from Gail, and I don't know how comfortable you're going to be to answer this one, because I know we don't usually talk about your family, but she's asking, does your family also participate in the same ET experiences, or is that one that's just off limits?
No, they don't typically have the same ones. They have their own experiences. And it seems to be a very broad one. Like, I know of quite a few experiences now that my cousins have had, and second cousins, things of that nature even.
Right. Do you find that it's a family affair?
Very much so. They do have certain families that they're interested in, and I do believe it does have something to do not only with vibrational resonance coming out of these people, but there has to be something in the physical bodies as well that they're fascinated in. Otherwise, why would they take such good care of us when we get sick? To me, that is the only thing I can really try to understand around that. Like, look at me, Dave. I'm 30, and whenever I've gotten very, very sick, these beings have always come to see me, and then within a day or two afterwards, I'm quite a bit better.
Yeah, you have that weird relationship that way. It is kind
I like
of neat.
it. I'm so thrilled. Pardon me.
The main topic that we were going to get into tonight, and we might as well actually start to get to tonight's topic, since, I mean, we're already an hour and a half into the show, so why not get into it now?
Yes.
Children.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, when they have ET contact, they usually hope that, much like depression, anxiety, or whatever health disease, they hope that it doesn't get passed down if they know they are a contact as well. I know earlier in the show you mentioned that, you know, ET Contact is like Monopoly. It's a game everybody in the family can play.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But when it comes to children, is it a different type of contact than, say, an adult would have?
Yes, undoubtedly. You have to remember, Dave, like, I know a lot of people who also have children who are starseeds or who have contact and things of that nature. Typically, contact will begin somewhere between being born, or if not before birth even, which we'll get into that in 1 second, and 2 years old. It is very common for a lot of people who are contactees themselves to have their kids in their first 100 or 200 words say alien or funny looking man or things of that nature, or being, because they will look at them and know that something isn't quite human about this. This doesn't look like mommy. This doesn't look like daddy, yet I see them regularly. So what do I mean when I say before birth? I find that a lot of people who are contactees will end up meeting their kids before they're even born, because there will be soul arrangements and soul agreements as to which children have a vibrational compatibility with the parents. And this can lead into other things, such as sorry to go into this for 1 second, but we had talked about in other shows the alien love bite, where they will try to break up one relationship if various ETs are trying to meddle, and they're like, oh, okay, well, we want for this person to have a child with that person because they have the right DNA and the right vibrational resonance. So sometimes they'll meddle in relationships trying to break them up. Not all, just some of the meddlesome ones, so please don't hear what I did not say. And other times, like let's say one of the spouses gets either a vasectomy or a hysterectomy, then sometimes if they want for more of that one line to continue, they will try to meddle in that relationship, causing a divorce, and do a ET orchestrated relationship. But getting back to the children, it is because they sometimes want for these children, which are starseeds themselves, who are related to these people who are now incarnated on Earth, to be born into certain vibrations, certain DNA lines. What area do you want me to go into?
Well, just in regards to when it comes to kids, okay, I think as a parent, we all want to protect our children,
Yes.
through good and bad. And I mean, there are certain situations where we just feel absolutely helpless. One of those situations I had with my little guy yesterday was walking him to the ice and watching someone else take control of him to teach him, how to skate for the first time. And he was sliding, falling, sitting on his butt, doing whatever, and that's just fine and dandy. That's going to happen. But as a parent, to especially a toddler, or say up to the age of kindergarten, or maybe 7 years old, we feel this heightened protection around our children that is lifelong, but more so in their younger years. And when we have an experience, whether it's positive or whether it's negative when it comes to extraterrestrial, it's not one of those things that you really want to pass on to your children, for fear that even though you may be having a benevolent experience, that they may all of a sudden get malevolent encounters. Do you see what I'm saying?
I believe I do. And Dave, one thing you need to remember is these children have agreed to be born to you. These children knew what you were encountering, knew you had experiences, probably put into their own life contracts if they themselves want to have experiences or to learn from them in one way, shape, or form. And that's part of why they would have them. But in regards to feeling that protection, feeling that need to keep your children safe, if you're like me, and the contact that you had, especially as a child, was all very loving, and you were safe and you were taken care of and things of that nature, then the thought of that happening for my children does not give me the same sense of stress and anxiety as someone who's having the, let's say, chicken claw grays come in, or only has reptilian experiences that are negative, or only has things of that nature. Because in my family, it is a mixture of the different types of beings which are interacting with my family. I do not have the same fear and anxiety that many other parents who are contacted do. So one thing you can do if you are someone who's having contact and you have children, and you're concerned that they will encounter beings that do not have a good intention toward them, will be teach them how to energetically protect themselves. Because your energy body is your best protection against any type of being, be it another human or multidimensional. So in our family, it doesn't matter if we're driving to school or we're driving to skating. It's like, okay, everyone put your white light up, golden bubble. Hey, what kind of grounding cord do you want to have today? Do you want a rainbow heart grounding cord, or do you want to have a unicorn grounding cord or a minion grounding cord? What's going to ground your energy body into the earth? Because to me, you teach children very young how to protect themselves on an energetic level, and then they are not going to have the same issues and encounters as children who are not protected energetically.
I know the little guy has been taken twice.
Yes.
Both times with Mrs. SOR. And the first time she had said that they were putting him, she asked them what they were doing, and they had him on a table, and he was crying and kicking and screaming. He was about 6 months old. Mm-hmm. And they said they were taking measurements to make sure he was healthy. They did it again when he was about 18 months old, and they basically called it a checkup. Now, when I had a gentleman named Barry Strom on this show, he channels an ET being named Moo via Ouija board or spirit board, whatever you want to call it. And Moo has actually helped him write a couple of books. And Moo had said that those were the only 2 times that the little guy would be taken because he has some other things he needs to do. Example, play good professional hockey. But, I'm just going to throw that in there with a big smile on my face. There it is. So, why would they only decide to take him twice? Did they get everything that they needed? Did they want to make sure that the lineage was good? What would be the purpose of that?
They could be checking your lineage. They could be seeing whether the energetic vibration between your father, Dave, and you, the difference between him and you, and then comparing the difference between you and little SOR. They could be comparing where each of you were at those time frames. So each of you at 6 months versus each of you at 18 months. Do you see the difference there? Because our energetic body changes immensely in the first year. And not only are they checking the physical body to see, okay, well, how are they doing in relation to toxins? Because realistically, the world your dad grew up in was less toxic and less polluted than the world you grew up in. And the same can be said between you and little SOR. And so energetically, though, it'd be the inverse. Your dad's generation would not be as evolved energetically as you. And you at that age not be as evolved energetically as your son. So really that could be all they necessarily need from you guys based upon what you're projected to do in this life. They have an awareness of that because when you're meeting someone, you can feel in their energy, okay, what chakras are activated and what is going on with them energetically, because that'll tell you where they're going to be headed. Energy tells you more than words ever can because energy doesn't lie. Energy can give them an idea of, okay, let's say, okay, Dave, what's your blood type?
I'm O positive.
And is Mrs. SOR negative at all?
No, I believe she is O positive as well.
Okay. So because you're both O, that would be in itself typically a reason to get contact, being universal receiver or donor. But they would probably be checking, okay, does this child have the rhesus negative gene? What else is going on with them? They'd be checking soul origin, seeing how well the soul is adjusting into the body, things of that nature. They do check a lot when they're abducting, quote unquote abducting. And if it's just a checkup, then you will get them periodically. You won't just have them twice in your life. They'll probably end up checking up on you every few years, but it may not be as extensive as other people, which can be a good thing because then you won't necessarily have the same pain or fear around people coming to you at night either.
So when it comes to children, do ETs have a particular interest in kids, or is it because of the lineage that they take them?
Some would have an interest in the children alone because children realistically would give them an idea of what is going on in the world, and children are a better indication. Like, you know how we're all programmed. Let's be very honest. From TV, music, media, we have a lot of programming and pollution in our minds and in our bodies. The children are a clearer picture of what is accurately happening on this planet because they're not as polluted. So they can take them and get a scan from their mind and see, okay, so this is what this child is perceiving around them. This is what's actually happening here and here and here. And they will also abduct children to to start teaching kids. Like for me, going to school started quite young. Your kids can dream that they're in this really odd-looking classroom type setting where either the tables will be floating or that they've got these funny-looking teachers or things of that nature. Or they may even see 2 or 3 of their classmates from school or friends and they're all learning something that they're not learning at school. Abduction isn't just health-based. Sometimes they are teaching them. Sometimes they want to remind them of who they are on a soul level. Sometimes if they know the child is, let's say their parents are getting a divorce, the child may have an increase in contact from their energetic family, their soul family, which may be the ETs, saying, you are not alone in this. We are here. There are 1,001 reasons for contact, and it's not as scary or as bad as most people are perceiving it out to be. It depends on who's contacting you. And you really need to look at how you feel after you have your contact, because that will give you a clear idea about what was happening and whether you should be concerned.
When I hear you talk about all this, and I'm sure other people are like that too,
yeah,
I feel very, very tense.
I'm sorry.
Very stressed out about it. But it's not about the words you were saying, but I keep going in my head, but yeah, that's my baby. That's my baby. You know, like, you can mess with me all you want, but leave my kids alone. And there's a defense mechanism, Samantha, that comes along with that. How does a parent then accept that if it's happened to them, that it's likely to happen to their child as well?
Well, the first thing I would honestly recommend doing is ask your child, hey, have you ever had any weird encounters or see anything weird or had any odd dreams? That would be the first step. Really, rather than focusing on all of the fear of it, flat out ask them, okay, have you had something? And if they say yes, ask them, okay, can you tell me a bit about it? What did you see? What did you feel? Because you may be having the stress, fear, and anxiety regarding it, but your child may not be perceiving it in the same way. Let's say, for instance, your child was being taken. Your child may be like, oh, it's okay, that's just my friend B, my special friend that comes at night. That might be how they perceive it. They may think of it like that, or as Sapphire, their funny-looking cat being that comes in, and they're okay with it. Sometimes they'll click a tiger, and sometimes they'll click a tiger that's walking on their 2 feet. It really depends on how your child is perceiving contact, if they're having it. If your child is having fear and anxiety, then it would be time to start being a little more aware of that and concerned and taking appropriate measures. But if they're not, then why are you going to a place of fear unnecessarily? Jumping to fear can draw, like, let's say you're fearful, then your child is going to feel it. Whether you say anything or not, they will sense your energy being fearful, and that can increase their own energy being fearful, which will increase the likelihood of more malevolent beings coming into contact with them, because you're dragging their energy body down rather than raising it up.
But on the flip side, do children have negative experiences?
Of course they can. Lots of children have negative experiences.
Is that what we would consider or perceive as nightmares?
Many times, yes. Often when our children go to sleep, they astral project every night, just like how we do. And if they, depending upon what your child is being exposed to or what is in contact with your family, your child could have something very scary coming after them and eating their energy, because really some beings do feed off our energetic resonance and can be creating a lot of fear in them, because children do perform the most pure form of what's known as loosh. I want for your audience to think about this for a second. When you're afraid, do you remember how that feeling of being in intense fear physically feels different on your body? How it feels like something's radiating out of you? You really are having an energy change. You are having energy coming out of you in a different form. And that is something that many of these beings do use as a form of sustenance. And so what you could do is you could teach your children, okay, let's say the next time that you see these scary beings in your dream, or you have a zombie dream, I want you to fly away. I want for you to, every time you're afraid, practice jumping. Jump up and try to fly out of the situation. Or call in your guides to keep you safe, or to blast that being with white light coming out of your hands, with God consciousness, whatever you want to call it. There are a lot of ways that you can empower your children if your family does have a history of negative contact. It's just a matter of finding what is the most appropriate way to deal with that situation. I don't feel that fear is ever the right answer. I'm sorry, but I don't.
If the child comes from a family that has negative ET contact, then can they break the trend?
Of course they can. They can undoubtedly break the trend. Most families, like let's say, if you look at your own family, for instance, do you notice how there seems to be an overlying set of patterns within relationships, traits of what they tend to do, like whether it's drinking, smoking, watching TV, or let's say you have a very active family, but everyone plays sports and no one really ventures outside of that. Your child can break the ET connection trend with the negative beings as much as you can break the trend from not watching football every Sunday like your family. It's just a matter of changing the way that you are interacting in any given circumstance. And energy is key. Because a lot of the beings that are coming to certain people, especially if they're negative, they're looking for a set resonance factor that is being emitted by these families. And they would be contacting these families for hundreds, if not thousands of years, following those keys down. Because there's something that's known as a genetic memory. So let's say my great-grandfather's house burnt down, which it did. And so within my grandmother was a fear of her house burning down, and within my father is a slightly less but still present fear of his house burning down, so he doesn't let there be candles in the house. And so within me there's a fear of my house burning down, but I am more cautious of that, and that's part of why I became a firefighter. Do you see how there's that remembrance of an event carried on genetically? The same thing can be said about contact with very negative beings. If your family has been contacted by very negative beings for a very long period of time, you would have a genetic memory of fear around these beings. So it is a matter of taking control over that situation and changing the way in which you interact to break the cycle and to have these beings lose interest within you and your family. I hope that makes sense without scaring anybody.
We have about 4 minutes left before we have to take a break here at the top of the hour, Samantha. I want to continue on with the topic of children here. In children whom you have discussed with, and I'm not sure how many children you have had the ability to discuss this, or other parents have let you talk to their children about this, what do children describe to you what they are seeing?
Well, children describe a lot of really interesting things, and I find most parents and most adults do not actually talk to children. No, that's not true. They'll talk to children, but they will not listen to children. They will not hear what they have to say. And if you talk to them, kids already know that there's extraterrestrials out there. They think it's silly that a lot of adults wouldn't believe in it. What I find a lot of kids will mention is, especially kids who have contact, they'll be like, oh, well, my soul's a dragon. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. What kind of dragon? Oh, this kind. So what do you eat? Oh, sometimes I eat people and I cross over and I go to sleep at night. I'm like, oh, okay, well, if you see me, please don't eat me. Realistically, a lot of kids that are starseeds remember their soul origin, or they'll remember being different things, whether it's partial cat type beings or being grasshopper type beings. The way in which they describe it, they won't use terms like mantis and reptilian and greys and Pleiadians, but they can describe, oh, I'm a human, but I'm a really, really tall human and I look different and my feet look funny, or I look different when I'm asleep and I'm on the other side. They will describe things differently. They can describe going on to craft at night, but they don't see it as necessarily bad. They'll be like, oh, well, my special friend Sapphire came last night and she took me to school and we were playing with energy. Oh, okay. That's nice. Go pack your lunch. That's kind of more how it goes. You listen to them, you get them to explain what it is they're seeing, what they're experiencing, and you don't show them to have the perception of fear. You just explain, okay, well, Sapphire lives on a different dimension. That's why you're not seeing them in your waking life as much. When you get older, you probably will. Things of that nature. And when you explain it to kids like that, where there's no stigma attached to it, where there's no fear associated with it, they don't have that same perception of fear. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And you know what? That's something that I had encouraged in my daughter and Mrs. SOR's daughter as well as they were growing up, is that when they did come with a story and saying, you know, I saw this, or there was a man or a woman or something standing at the end of my bed, we always projected that parental caution that, okay, well, let's hear this out. Let's not just say it was imagination, or it was, you know, your mind playing tricks, or you're overtired. How many times have we heard that? You know, oh, you're just overtired, so you're seeing things that aren't there. You know, I remember as a kid hearing that all the time from my parents. I wish I could remember an example fast forward 35, 40 years, but the fact is, all parents who are not in the know or naive to the subject or too religious or however you want to put it, you know, they're not buying that from their children, and they're closing that mind off.
I agree, but that's the thing, Dave. Kids are more psychic than us naturally. Than 90% of adults, they are more psychic than them. And when you're very, very tired, your ability to perceive other dimensions actually amplifies because you tend to zone out. You don't tend to focus your eyes as much. And that allows you to see more clairvoyantly. That allows you to really get a sense of what's energetically moving around you, rather than, let's say, when you're looking at your phone and so heavily focused on what's in front of you, or the TV, or a book, or your homework, or whatever. So I do think that most people do see things when they are quite tired, because they're a little more in a relaxed state than when they're more awake.
Well, you know what? I think it's a good lesson for all parents in listening to you to make sure you keep your minds open a little bit, because if you have young ones around, even if you're a grandparent or a parent, or you have children with parents, I think it's important that you get around that. We're going to stop out. We're going to take a break here at the top of the hour. Spaced Out Radio with Samantha Mowat, coming up for hour number 3 right after this.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with the U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET Contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Spaced Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back for the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you all with us. If you're taking part in the Wolf Spirit Radio chat room, the Revolution Radio chat room, Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, or the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook, good to have you along for the ride. Tomorrow night on the show, the crypto guru is back, Ronald Murphy. We're going to be talking giants, among other things, and he's bringing with him a friend, the Crypto Kid, as Ron calls him, as we will be talking with young... I don't even know his name. How bad is that? Anyways, the young lad is known as the Crypto Kid, and that starts at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. I'll have his name for tomorrow. That is for sure. And everything can be heard at spacedoutradio.com. Remember, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also listen to us on TuneIn or download our podcasts on iTunes. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. With that, you get access to private group interviews, your name put into monthly prize draws, and so much more. You can check out the SOR Space Wire. Our news director, Eric Markham, otherwise known as The Preacher, will continue to put some really cool stories up there on a daily basis. You can check out our music man, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight's password is concurrence. Bill Cardwell has set the password at concurrence, so if you're an SOR Space Travelers member, you know what to do. Make sure you use it wisely. Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you, the lovely and valued listener. Do us a favor if you're tuning in. Donate today. Samantha Mowat is our guest every second Tuesday of the month. Samantha comes in and gives us the ET experience. Tonight we've been taking a lot of your questions. We got a few more to go through, as well as we've been talking about ET contact with young children. Samantha, welcome back.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dave.
Staying on the topic with children for a few minutes here, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Do most children have contact at an early age?
No. From my experience,
how does that come about then?
How does it happen? Typically, the parents would be contacted. Normally, from what I've come to understand, at least from the kids that I've talked to, which would be quite a few children now that are under the age of 7 or 8, I find that a lot of children will somehow, I've asked my guides, hey, if there are any kids that are being contacted that want to talk about it, can you please have them just randomly start talking to me about something related so that I know they're being contacted? And normally how kids will end up mentioning it or start telling me about their experiences is they'll say, oh, well, this started happening when I was a baby, or I remember floating when I was a baby, or I remember funny beings picking me up when I was a baby, things of that nature. And you can even ask them, okay, well, what kinds of beings? And part of where I started to understand that not all reptilians are as bad as we perceive them to be is I was talking to 2 little children. Well, they're not really that little, but anyways, one of them's a girl, one's a boy. And the girl said, oh, well, all of my family, they're dragons. I don't like this family. I'm like, well, what family? She's like, I don't like my mom. She's not my mom. I want my dragon mom. I don't like being a girl. I'm like, okay, well, what's your dragon mom like? She's really nice, and it's warmer there, and it's drier. I'm like, okay, well, what's your world like? And she started to describe to me, oddly enough, a place that was very deserty. And this poor little girl, here she is on Vancouver Island, a very lush rainforest-type place, who all she wants to do is go swimming and hates clothing and wants to be a dragon because that's what makes sense to her. And she says her dragons come to see her regularly. Well, this is a smart little child who actually remembers a lot of her soul family and is remembering her contact. So when you start to talk to kids and ask them more about what's going on, you will find they will tell you if you'll actually listen to them and show them respect. But for other kids that I've talked to, I find that if they're talking about their contact, sometimes they will be a little bit nervous about it because they won't know what to make of it. Or they'll say, I saw something come in through the closet, or I saw something coming in through the window. And it's like, okay, well, many of these beings are able to travel interdimensionally and pass through our walls with very limited ease, especially if you live right by a forest or anything, then really they do seem to contact you more in that case. But they will often tell you if they're having a being coming into their room, and they'll tell you what happened. But you have to show them that you're valuing what they say and that you're believing them, or they're going to shut down and they're not going to talk to you about it.
And for a lot of parents, though, Samantha, that is a big problem to deal with, and one that I would say 98% of the parents out there, 99% of the parents out there, wouldn't even know the first thing of what to do if all of a sudden their child is saying all this stuff. I mean, the first reaction is automatic. Well, my child has a very active imagination, or maybe there's some health problems or something along those lines. It's never, ever about extraterrestrials.
But that's one thing that I have a bit of a problem with, is people say, oh, well, you have a very active imagination. I tell the worst stories. I really do. Like, if my kids ask me, Mom, can you make the story and tell me one? Mine are horrible. They're like, okay, can you tell me something I've already heard before then? So really, it's not necessarily an act of having an imagination, because I find that many starseeds cannot imagine things in the typical way in which people are expecting them to be able to imagine them. And that's part of where I have a hard time even sharing my ET experiences, and sorry to bring it back to me for a second, is learning how to tell your experiences in a way that people can understand. And I find a lot of children that are starseed origin or having contact have a very similar problem, where they're looking at this information that's so foreign and so different, and they're trying to explain it to people who may not necessarily remember their own contact, or may be in denial about their own contact, or may not even be having contact, because I've met a couple children now whose parents are pretty certain they don't have any contact at all, yet the kid is having it. And it doesn't necessarily imply that there's mental illness. If you think about it, and you look at the amount of people worldwide who are coming forward with saying, hey, look, I'm having encounters. And for those of you who have children or grandchildren who may be having contact, please go onto YouTube and look up Mary Rodwell. She is an amazing source of information for this. She will give you a lot of the sanity you really need around understanding contact, and how many of the beings that are coming to contact us, especially